Hey everybody, what's up? It is Thursday, August 2nd, and I thought I'd give you my monthly opinions for this month on the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book and franchise. As we all know, as recently as of yesterday, and of course as of my birthday, which was a real surprise, Sonic 239 was released. Now, we could pretty much say for those that have read it, some say that the story was good. Now others will say the story was lacking. In other words, didn't really move forward. But we did find out some clues, apparently from what I have read through some small spoilers and summaries and stuff like that, that all these hurtful things that Sally has said in her mechanized form over the past 9 issues, all these hurtful things that she has said, calling Bunny weak without her robotics, saying what she did to Tails and Amy the first time they encountered her in her weaponized form. All this, and then including what she was about to say according to one person about her and Amy never being friends. Only then, when it hit somebody, only then did we find out, or at least the people that read the issue found out, that Robotnik, excuse me for a second, that Robotnik, Eggman, had actually programmed a lot of hurtful things into Sally. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Sorry, there's a kid in the background. But programmed a lot of hurtful things. There we go. Sorry about that. Kid has a problem out there. But anyway, programmed a lot of hurtful things into Sally. Now I know what you're thinking. You're asking, wait, he programmed stuff into her? Exactly. Basically, this shows you that when you're roboticized, you can be programmed to say certain things. Now, this might drive a hint, this might, kind of give people a clue as to what could happen next. Now I know some might say, well, if he programmed her to say these hurtful things, could that mess her up? Possibly, probably not. Now what I mean by mess up is, let's say that she is restored. Let's say she is restored. Not saying she will be, because we got to play the E. Flynn game and not guess exactly what's going to happen or try to figure out. But let's say she is restored. The fact, mentally, from a story aspect, Eggman programming all those hurtful things into her, basically can make for more drama. Because the aftermath could be her dealing with the fact that not only does she have to redeem herself again for everything that she did, and possibly was forced to say and do, against her will. But let's say if she's restored, and if she deals with it in this manner, and let's say if she goes back to being a leader of some sorts, a strategist, if you will, one of the things for great character development is her trying to figure out how they could prevent, if, let's say, robotization comes back in a full way, how can she and anybody else prevent roboticized people from being programmed to say things? And the truth is, you know, maybe, and the truth, well, we don't know if they'll be able to do it or not. But again, it's all about great story development. Because you got to think of it this way. Tails right now is sort of like Tails is the brains of the team fighters right now. So pretty much, he could figure out right for an instant that when Sally in her mechanized, weaponized form said what she was about to say to Amy in this recent issue, from what I've been told and seen through the spoilers, small spoilers, not very detailed, that apparently he probably deduced, now I'm not saying it is Tails, could have been Sonic, I don't really know, because that's some things, some details they didn't really say, but pretty much figured out, maybe, somebody had to figure out that Robotnik programmed her to say those things. Now, the clue is this the first step into her restoration? Is this the first step in her being returned to normal in some way? We don't really know. All we know is that according to Ian Flynn, in the next month or so, next month in September, towards the end of next month, being September, this all comes to an end. This all comes to a close, but we won't know that yet, will we? We won't know that yet. Right now, the only preview cover we have is 242. We don't know what 243 looks like. If 243 has Sally on there, either roboticized still or normal, and she's fighting alongside Sonic and Amy and Tails, then hey, she's back. If not, then something is completely wrong. You know what I'm saying? The truth being, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, and if we don't see, let's say, Sally in any capacity with 243, then we know, like I said, something's completely wrong. Like maybe she's gone now, or maybe she's gone. You know, maybe people got the wish she's kablooey, if you will, or maybe she again sacrificed herself after she's restored. We don't know. See, all this is out there, but we don't know. We don't know. Now, I know one thing that a lot of fans have a problem with you know, this Mecha Sally arc coming to an end, according to what Ian Flynn said at Comic-Con, coming to an end in the next few months. Now, I know some people have reserved the right, and you know, it is the right to, you know, believe Ian Flynn, to believe anything he says or not to believe it. They have reserved that right. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that they have reserved the right to believe anything he says or not to believe it. And let's say he is pulling people's legs, not saying Ian Flynn is. And the story arc doesn't end until maybe a few more issues. Then bravo, Ian Flynn's doing his job. But again, fans can reserve the rights to believe or not to believe what he said at SDCC. Now, another thing that Ian Flynn's involved with, and I'm pretty much on Ian's side here. That's hard to believe, but I'm pretty much on Ian Flynn's side. But Ian Flynn has come out and stated, well, not totally stated, but I can almost tell from what I have seen, ladies and gentlemen, that Ian Flynn is not too happy or not too keen on the fact that he had to push a little bit of the Mecha Sally arc, well, push it backwards, in other words, wrap it up quickly, but you have to push a little bit of the story arc, but I have to push that portion of this entire story arc, and it's basically push the climax of that portion of the story arcs, that chapter, if you will, into closure this soon. Now, again, you can't really blame, you can't really blame him for probably feeling that way. But to me, again, I'm on his side. If I have plans to climax my prize, my masterpiece, if you will, if I have plans to climax it with the 250th anniversary issue, then I want to see that come to fruition. But when I end up having 6 months in advance, being told 6 months before I get ready to probably put the pen and paper, or sit down at the computer and start typing up those final issues leading up to the climax, when I get a call possibly that says, hey, by the way, 250 is going to be the beginning of the Sonic Mega Man crossover, knowing that it was eventually going to happen, which I'm pretty sure Ian did, I'm pretty sure Ian wasn't too thrilled, if you will, that he had to push some of his stories, some of his conclusions to the Mecha Sally Death Egg saga beyond 250 or even before. I'm sure he wasn't too keen on that. Because you got to think of it this way. Ian Flynn has said that the story arc overall, starting with 225, along with Genesis and afterwards, would be double the length of Iron Dominion. Now, the Mecha Sally arc has ran the Iron Dominion run. Well, it will by next month, according to what he says, if you want to believe what he's saying to you. And I'm going to take his word for it. That's all I'm going to say. But again, when you say that the newest story arc is going to be double the length of your first year-long story arc, then again, like I said, you want to see it complete. You want to see that be completed. But when you find out you either got to push some of the stories and issues 4 issues ahead or 4 issues late to basically 4 months later, if you will, or to take place 4 months after, or whatever you want to call it, or take place after the 4 months of the first 4 issues of the Sonic the Hedgehog Mega Man crossover in the main Sonic comic takes place, then yeah, you're not going to be too happy. But if you could be allowed to say, hey, I'm going to finish it in 250 no matter what, then so be it. I mean, again, how would you feel if you have to scatter stuff? You're kind of scatterbrained. You're like, well, I didn't really plan this. Well, unfortunately, things don't work work out the way you want them to now, do they? It kind of goes back. It kind of goes back to something. Well, basically an issue that I have. It was talked about in the documentary on the Death of Superman DVD. Basically, DC Comics had plans to do a wedding between Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane. But because Lois and Clark had just come out, and the people at Lois and Clark wanted to do the wedding between the main characters first, they had to hold off on DC Comics. The writers and the artists there had to hold off on theirs. So, just like Ian Flynn, you could definitely tell just by watching the interview, or just watching the feature, or the featurette, if you will, that they weren't too keen on the fact that they had to push theirs back. They weren't too keen on it, but they accepted it. And again, I'm sure that's how Ian is. I'm sure he's not too keen on the fact that he has to wrap up the Mecha Sally portion of this huge arc so soon, and then probably eventually, either before or and maybe a little after the first 4 issues of the main comic deals with the crossover, has to finish up the rest of the story arc that way. I'm pretty sure he's not too happy with it, but he's going to deal with it. He's not too keen on it, but he's going to deal with it. I mean, honestly, that's, you know, you don't, honestly, it's not, you know, honestly, if it, you know, basically, honestly, things just don't sometimes go the way you want them to. So, you know, again, I can't blame anybody, again, for either believing what Ian says at San Diego Comic-Con or not. And I can't blame Ian for feeling the way he does. But again, he deals with it. Now, there's another thing that kind of gets to me a little bit. There are some people at certain message boards out there that pretty much feel that when Sally returns, she's going to steal the spotlight. I'm not going to be too sure about that, folks. I'm not going to be too sure. Because, let me put it to you like this. If Sonic, back when a certain other writer was writing, when Sonic became got de-roboticized, okay, he was still put on trial for what he did, for his actions, even though they weren't completely his. Now, for anybody that probably thinks after all this is said and done that Sally's not going to probably face similar situations, she will. If Ian Flynn wants to go in that direction. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have had the feel of, well, Animal Limp. I mean, not, I'm thinking of something else. Have had the feel of trials in the comic. Some have had the feel of trials in the comic, especially with the Jeffrey St. John one. But again, don't expect Sally, story-wise, if Ian Flynn's smart enough to do this, for her to get off scot-free, because she will have to face consequences. I'm pretty sure after it's all said and done with Robotnik, Eggman, and Nagas and such, and they have a council meeting going, I'm sure, you know, the council will be like, and because you got to think of who the council consists of. Now I know Eliza's, if he's the king again, he'll be the first to kind of say, look, I know my sister, you know, I may be the head of the council, but I know my sister meant no harm in what she was doing because she had no control over her actions. Think something similar to maybe back in the 170s, if you will, when Sally was put on trial then. Similar, maybe more dramatic, maybe more intense, I don't know. But this is what I think could happen. This is what I think could happen. Now, if they put her on trial, I wouldn't be surprised if they also put Nicole on trial at the same time. Now again, Elias could defend both, saying both had no control of their actions. Now, here's what they could do about both. If Ian Flynn wanted to go in that direction, which we're not totally sure yet what the next step would be. But here's the situation. Here's the situation. One of the areas that they could develop, if they wanted to go in that direction for an issue or so, is you could have some of the council members agree with Eliza's, but in return say, yes, we agree with what you say, Elias, but she should have thought that, but if she's supposed to be the leader of the group, she should have came up with a better idea instead of allowing herself to be roboticized and thus used against us. She should have thought better of her actions. Not agreed. She did the right thing in sacrificing herself, but in return, she allowed herself to be upgraded. She allowed herself to be used by Eggman to do his bidding, to hurt those that she swore to protect. Now, if they decide, let's say, to go in that, now let's say if Ian decides to go in that direction for an issue, you know, that might be good, even though, like I said, some may not, you know, like it at first, it might still be good. Now, another thing is, if, again, Ian decides to go with another trial issue, another thing is, one of the decisions they could come up with is say, okay, we will not put Sally behind bars, we will not exile her, but until she proves that she is worthy of being leader again, she is no longer allowed to lead the freedom fighters. We will give that title to the one that always saves the day, Sonic the Hedgehog. And right there, that would please game fans there, because it would at least put Sonic back in that leadership position in which a lot of people feel he should be in. Now, believe it or not, I feel Sally would be, character-wise, Sally would be okay with that. And no, not because it's a Sal thing. No, no, no. Because maybe development through character development-wise, if she's restored, again, you got to play that Ian Flynn game. If she's restored, she probably won't have no problem with it, and it's not a Sonic Sal thing, but more along the lines from a character development-wise, that maybe she can't trust herself fully to lead until she's probably in the right mind again. Now, as far as Nicole goes, let's say they want to put her on trial, finally, maybe at the same time as Sally, they could say, look, Nicole, we understand that you didn't want to reveal yourself to the Iron Queen after Sally freed you from her control, but it still does not make any excuse that you were an accomplice in her actions. Now, I'm pretty sure someone like, say, a Hamlin, or maybe Rosemary or whoever could come up and say, Nicole, we understand your actions. We understand why you didn't want to reveal yourself. Because you didn't want to show yourself because of the Iron Queen. But at least you could have acknowledged you were helping us. You were free of her control. Some of us, like say the council and stuff, you could have helped us out. You could have let some of us know. Now, what I see happening is that her exile that she has right now will be revoked. She'll be back in the city, but she'll probably be put on a probationary period. And what that means for an AI is when everybody goes, like say everybody goes to sleep for the night, she has to shut down for the night. And when everybody wakes up in the morning, she has to wake up. You kind of get the idea? Like only during the day, like only for the whole day and night, only then can she operate. And then when everybody, like I said, starts dozing off, going to sleep and all that, only then does she shut down. She can no longer be, as they would say, 24/7. That's what I feel could happen if, let's say, Ian Flynn decides to go with another trial issue or so after everything's done, said and done. And again, I know some people aren't looking too openly forward to a trial issue, but you never know. Now, as far as the other characters go, like Antoine and Bunny, well, I feel Antoine's going to be okay. Bunny, I feel, is going to be back. She might be legionized, but it'll be just like she was before. And I guarantee you, for those that think she'll be under robotics control, you're wrong. Because she's too popular, like Sally, she's too popular of a character. She's got a huge fan base, and I don't think they're going to want to see that. So I think they're going to be okay. Now, another way I feel this whole thing can come to a climax, and again, I've mentioned this before, I'll mention it again, is you have some kind of time travel scenario. Now, I know some people have come out and say, well, if Ian goes with a Deus Ex Machina deal like he did with Bunny, it's going to be a cop-out. But if he decides, hey, I'm going to have Sonic go with Silver back in time, prevent Sally from getting roboticized, and then, voila, so be it. That works too. And you have to admit, that would make more sense than, like you say, than some people have said, using magic and all that. So to me, that's one scenario. Now, as far as Robotnik Eggman goes, and this whole Death Egg situation, how it's being written, to me, I thought about this early this morning before I started to do this video. I believe Ian Flynn, not knowing how he really writes sometimes, but knowing how he likes to surprise us, or try to, I wouldn't be surprised if Ian Flynn decides to have Eggman say, hey, when the roboticizer gets up and running, even those immune to robotization will no longer be. Or something like, if the robotization doesn't work, then I'll just turn the Death Egg into a detonated bomb and basically blow up the planet or decimate the planet into ruins. Kind of give you an idea of how Silver's future came to be. And as far as the traitor Silver's looking for, I'm going to be surprised. I won't be surprised if there's no traitor at all, and that we find out this whole thing was set up by Mogul from the offset. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I know some of you may argue that, but to me, I don't. If there is a traitor, it's got to be someone big. But I don't think there is a traitor. I mean, some people have said Bunny could be the traitor because she's not there right now, but I don't think that's it. I think the traitor is no traitor. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Okay, now one last thing before I go. One fan here on YouTube, one fan now at the Sega Forums and Sonic Stadium, has constantly been asking one question. And I'm going to answer it right now, and I hope they're listening. This person has asked whether Sally's sacrifice to be roboticized was just as bad, if not worse, than Sonic being stabbed by Maleficus. I guess that's the name, or Melphis, or whatever his name is, in Sonic 2006, or Maria being shot in Sonic Adventure 2. Let me put it to you like this. There's an old saying among fans, and even in the comic, that roboticization is worse than death. Let's put it that way. Robotization is worse than death. There could be part of your answer there. Second of all, as far as if it being just as bad, if not worse, I'll say this. I will rank it among the top 3. That's right. Maria dying at 1. Well, Sonic being killed at 1, Maria dying at 2, and at number 3, Sally's robotization. Your top 3 things that you never thought you'd see in Sonic-related material when it comes to death, sacrifice, or whatever. So yes, I consider it a top 3. If you wanted to add 2 more, make it a top 5, it would be number 3. So to answer your question, there you go. To answer that person's question, there they go. Now, one other thing. As far as those that say that I should come out and read the issues before I make any kind of opinion and judgment, let me make this perfectly clear for one last time. I'm only going by what I read from other fans and hear from other fans. My plan is to open up all the issues when it's all said and done, give a proper review overall, just like I did with Iron Dominion. And I apologize for the leaf blower in the background. But that's what I plan to do, whether people like it or not. So deal with it. And I will say this. If you're a Sonic supporter of him being with another girl besides Sally, which I have no problem with because that's your opinion, I have no problem with, that's your opinion. If you're a fan of him being with another female, again, I have no problem with, then I ask you out of respect, just come out and say it. There have been those that have, so I'm asking anybody out there that have negative comments towards me or anybody else, whether it's here on YouTube, the message boards, the websites, DeviantArt, to just come out and tell the truth. Just admit it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's your opinion. It's how you feel. You have a right to that. So that's all I'm going to ask. And I thank you all for joining me for this August edition of my monthly opinions on the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book and franchise. Sorry I went over a little half hour. And I apologize for all the noise in the background. People are doing the gardens and mowing and leaf blowing and all that. So thank you all for listening, watching, and I will talk to you later. And yes, I do have the Mario and Sonic Olympic Games from Beijing edition up there because of this year's Olympics. So thank you all for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you all later.